AOC is accusing Tucker Carlson of inciting political violence, including against her. And before we go on in this video, let's be perfectly clear that we condemn political violence from the left, from the right, from the middle, from wherever. It's wrong. Don't do it. Let's get into what she told the Breakfast Club yesterday.
It's not normal. Like, I can tell you 110%, one of the largest sources of death threats that I get is Tucker Carlson.
Wow.
Wow, that is an amazing accusation. How does she know that? Has there been research? I'm kind of curious. Let's listen more.
Every time that dude puts my name in his mouth, the next day, I mean, this is like what stochastic terrorism is. It's like,
oh, stochastic terrorism. She's actually going to define this for you right now, stochastic terrorism. But this is a concept which basically means that you cannot connect the dots. You cannot connect the dots, but you are guilty, right? Which sounds very familiar to unconscious bias, doesn't it? You don't know you're biased, but you are. If you admit you're biased, then that's proof. If you deny bias, that's proof too.
This indirect, it's like when you use a very large platform to turn up the temperature and target an individual until something happens. And then when something happens, because it's indirect, you say, oh, I had nothing to do with that.
Right.
Tucker Carlson, God forbid anything happens, he plays a massive role in political violence.
Now, I could right now interject any number of quotes from AOC and the George Floyd riots and a fiery but mostly peaceful protest. I won't do that. I could, but I won't. Two wrongs don't make a right. Two wrongs don't make a right. It's not okay that the right does any political violence because the left, well, they did it, so we can. No, neither side can do it. And I don't buy this argument that Tucker's voice, Tucker's free speech, Tucker's point of view is causing violence. And the whole argument of stochastic terrorism is to shut somebody else's speech down. She's saying, I don't have any proof, but what he's doing is inciting violence, and the inference is obviously that Tucker should be taken off the air. That is quite clearly what she's trying to do. It's the same thing as the Salem witch trials. We're going to take this accused witch, we're going to tie her to a chair and dunk her in the pond. If she drowns, well, that's proof she's a witch. If she somehow escapes, well, that's proof she's a witch. That's exactly what the accusation of stochastic terrorism is. And I agree with her on one thing. God forbid anything should happen to her. No violence should come to this woman. None. Let's see what she feels about Tucker's First Amendment rights.
Plays a massive role in political violence. Like, it comes on his doorstep specifically. It's
when
not
you say
just
something
us.
happens, what do you mean, to you or just in the country, period?
To me, to elected officials.
Any of his targets.
To any of his targets. Because it's not even just elected officials.
So basically, if anything happens, it's Tucker Carlson's fault.
He will target people that have, like,
Other reporters.
He will
other
target
journalists.
but he will also target activists and advocates that do not have resources or an infrastructure of protection either. And it is extremely.
What a bully Tucker is. By expressing his First Amendment rights on public policy, he's somehow, even though you can't connect the dots, placing other people at risk.
Dangerous.
Also, just in the big picture, this stochastic terrorism accusation seems to be that people who actually take political violence action are not responsible completely for their own actions. It somehow absolves them in part, or divides the blame between Tucker Carlson and the actual offender, right? Which actually kind of goes into the far left's view of anything of crime. If a guy robs a bank, it's because his third grade teacher didn't give him an A on the math quiz. That's how they think about crime in general.
He absolutely, and he was part of January 6th.
Right.
Like, the violence that happened then, he absolutely played a role in that.
How do y'all protect yourself against that? Can you sue? Or?
Here it comes.
Well, as a public figure and elected official, you don't really get the same protections. So
you're not protected, right? You actually have to compete in the marketplace of ideas. They hate competition.
Because like the bar for libel is much higher, there's a lot that can be said in the public sphere, right? Like, just because someone says,
I don't think they should be allowed to say it, but the First Amendment allows people to say things
about me doesn't mean I can go out and sue them. Even if someone lies about me,
Right.
I can't really sue them.
I would basically sue everybody if I could.
And that, I think, is part of what he uses as a shield. He knows that that he is targeting a legal class that really cannot issue consequence. And he uses that to drive an enormous amount of violence. And
he uses that to drive an enormous amount of violence. Of course, you can't point to anything because that's the beauty of this accusation. You don't have to prove it. Lastly, listen to what she says here. It's just insanely infuriating.
Meanwhile, this dude cries like every time there's like someone around the corner that he feels like weird about,
And what she's doing here is downplaying what happened at Tucker's house, which was not around the corner, but right at his home.
We know where you sleep at night.
Complaining about that when your family is inside, your kids are inside, and you're off to work, and they're screaming out, "We know where you sleep at night." That's just, if you complain about that, you're a crybaby, is how AOC thinks about Tucker. You have to condemn political violence from any quarter. Otherwise, you lose the moral high ground. When AOC makes light of what happened at Tucker's house, everything else she said before that is now revealed for what it is, completely partisan. You must condemn political violence from any side. Otherwise, once you say, oh, it's okay that those people did something, but it's not okay that those, all right, yeah, then it's a free-for-all in society, and nobody wins. So take your ideas, get them out there in the marketplace of ideas, and win people's hearts and minds. That's the real battleground. Hey, I'm John F. Gately from America's hometown, Plymouth, Massachusetts. Behind the philosophical enemy lines. Have a great day. Bye-bye.